Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today's video is going to cover mint on card vintage Star Wars figures that sold mainly at auction. I've got a few buy it now, some graded and ungraded, and as you can tell by this thumbnail, there was some really nice stuff here. We had a 7-inch Vader, we had the Droid's Tig From that was graded, we had a Glass Leap Brazilian Kaz-Iban, and then we had a Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raider mint on card that was graded. So just in this thumbnail, there's a lot of money, and I hope you have been enjoying the videos. And if you're new to the channel, I basically provide price guides for vintage and modern Star Wars figures. Please consider subscribing. Leave a like for this video as it does help out with the YouTube algorithms. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. First is that Takara 7-inch Vader. These 7-inch Takara Japanese characters or action figures are very expensive. We had a C-3PO, the Darth Vader, obviously, and Chewbacca and Stormtrooper. I think those are the four off the top of my head, and they're all very, very expensive. They're just very tough to find, especially in high grade, because as we've talked about, these blisters are kind of strange that hold the figures in, and this one is a really nice example. 75, 75, 85, which at first blush seems like a pretty harsh score relative to how nice this one looked. You can see the back of this card is just super cool. My family and I are actually thinking about going to Japan probably next summer. So I'm kind of excited about that, just to see how different things are over there. And I'm sure that I'll take lots of photos and go visit some toy stores, things like that, just so you can get a sense of how cool it is over in Japan. So AFA 75 Vader, this one did sell, and of course it doesn't pull up with the final sales price. I've heard that if you reload it, and it worked this time. So one of you all subscribers told me to reload the auction and it'll show up, and it did this time. So thank you, whoever made that suggestion. $1281.59 was the final sales price, and at first blush, if you're not familiar with these Takaras, you're like, wow, that seems really high, but that's actually a pretty good deal relative to some of the ones I've seen sell in that $1,500 to $1,800 range. I think there was an AFA 85 of this that CIB had at auction about maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago, somewhere in that ballpark, and it sold for over $1,800 if memory serves. So $1,281 seems like a very fair price for an AFA 75. I would have paid that in a heartbeat if, just relative to other data points that are floating around in my head. That seemed like a pretty good deal. And I don't mean to pick on Gold Star Tech for these videos that much, but he or she has everything. I mean, they literally have a nonstop flow of graded and ungraded items, and it makes for great content for the channel because they're all auctions. So it gives you a really good baseline for those of you out there looking. And this one was the 31 back B Luke Bespin with the walking photo, AFA 75 plus, 80, 75, 75. And, this is, a very nice item. No price sticker, unpunched, $11.60. And that's kind of right in line with market, I think, for a 31 back B early Luke Bespin card back. And I don't know. I mean, to me, an AFA 80 is typically in that $1,300 to $1,400 range, and AFA 85s are probably at this point over $2,000 these days. So you maybe get lucky and get it for $1,800-ish, somewhere in there. But a 75 plus, clear blister, unpunched, no price sticker, $11.60. That's very much fair market value. Here was an AFA 75 Princess Leia, and this one did have a yellow blister, although it was unpunched, no price sticker, 41 back E on this one, offerless. 75, 70, 80. That one sold for $8.16, and I think because of the 70 sub-score, which you could maybe make an argument is a little rough. It's a little harsh. It did have a ding in the upper portion of the blister there, but it was yellowed. $8.16 was the final sales price. That's, you could make an argument that's maybe even a little low, but I think because of the 70 sub-score, that probably kept the price sub $900, $1,000. I think an AFA 80 clear blister very easily is over, I'd say $1,100-$1,200 very comfortably. So I think that price is probably about right. Next up, we did have another transition card, or a couple of them I wanted to cover. First is the Death Star droid. This one did have some condition issues. It was obviously a yellow blister, but you can see very clearly some light veining on the card. If this one was near mint with a clear blister, I would have gone after this very hard. Very hard. This is one I don't have in my Death Star droid collection, and I'd love to get this one clear blister, but I did send this out to a few Patreon supporters. I know one of them, a good buddy of mine, did bid on this. He did lose, but this one sold for $455, which I think is very much fair market value. Clear blister, and even with the card creases, if this was clear blister, I bet this one would have sold for over $600 pretty easily. So I think that one was a very fair deal. The other one that my Patreon supporter and buddy did win, he told me, he sent me a message earlier. I thought he got a great deal on this one. This one sold for $891, same card back, the Transition Return of the Jedi 48 back, Darth Vader, clear blister, unpunched, no price sticker. And, it had a couple of very minor issues on the card, but this blister looked pretty much immaculate. The card also looked really clean. I think he's going to get, he usually grades his Minton cards. I think this one pretty easily gets an 80 grade. And that was a great deal. Now, for reference, CIB had one of these AFA graded. I can't remember what the grade was. It was either an 80 or an 80 plus. And it sold for close to $3,000. So this was an absolute bargain in my mind. And this is what I talk about all the time. If you have certain card backs you collect, and in this case, my buddy collects the 48 back transition cards. And when you have an AFA 80 or 80 plus, again, I don't remember the sales price on it, but it was over $2,500. I know that. And if you don't want to pay those prices, then roll the dice on an ungraded example when it becomes available, if it becomes available, and see what you get. And I know for a fact that these 48 backs are very few on the AFA population report. There's just not many of them out there. So if you see an ungraded example that appears to be in good shape, send it in to get graded, and you got a lot of good equity there, because I do think that this one's got a really good chance at an 80 grade or even possibly an 80 plus. I think that this one blemish to the left of the card of the name pill will probably be enough to hold it back to an overall 80. Maybe they take mercy on you and they give you an 85 for the figure, 85 for the blister, 80 for the card back, and then give you an 80 plus. But AFA, they're really, really tight with their grading, and I can almost guarantee you that this one gets an 80 just because of that one little blemish on the card back. But who cares? You got it for $891. That is a great deal. Really good deal there. A couple of Tri-Logos that sold. First was an AFA 75 Anakin Skywalker, unpunched, no price sticker for $251. I thought that was a good deal. I've always been really hesitant to get this figure or this character on the Tri-Logo because there's so much room inside the traditional Palatoy blister. There is also a Meccano blister that's a little tighter and keeps the figure from bouncing around. But Anakin is huge. It's a really big, heavy character, and it can launch through the blister. I know two friends, including Chris over at Rogue 5 Toys, 5 Idiots Talking Toys. I know that he bought a graded example, and it just launched through the blister, and he received it and it was destroyed. And I know one other buddy of mine that same thing happened to him. So I've been really hesitant to buy this particular character on the Tri-Logo. But $251 is a really good deal there. I thought that was a great deal. And next up was the Luke X-Wing on the Tri-Logo. It was ungraded, but pretty decent shape. The blister looked to be pretty good, and I think the only issues were on the card back. Let's see here. The card back looks pretty clean there. It did have that crease going through the name, well, maybe just above the name pill. It's a faint crease. It's not bad. And I think on the back, it didn't even show up that much, if at all. Let's see. Yeah, on the back of the card, you don't even see the crease. But it is on the front. I think that this one gets the 80 grade. If not, it definitely gets a 75 plus, because the blister is primo. And it's just got that one little faint crease that doesn't even show on the back of the card. So I think it's got a decent chance at an overall 80, if not definitely a 75 plus. Very nice Luke X-Wing on the Tri-Logo. That's a tough character to get on the Tri-Logo. At $405, I think that's a bargain. That's a really good deal there. Next up is a Palatoy Walrus Man. This, I think, is the 45 back, if memory serves. Yeah, this is the 45 bag. This is one of the most common Palatoys. I think I actually have this in my collection, if memory serves. But this is a very common Palatoy 45 back Walrus Man. 214.38 is about right. You know, it did have some light dings on the blister that you can see there. Probably overall about a 75 grade because of those blister crunches, but kind of pushing in on the blister. But Walrus Man, man, he's got an interesting face, doesn't he? Very interesting face. 214.38 though, good deal. Next up, I've got some 65 backs that sold, and there were some absolute heaters in this auction. This one was a clear blister 65 back B Ben Kenobi. Very tough to find this one clear blister. That one sold for $310. I thought that was a pretty good deal. It wasn't perfect. It had some light issues at the top of the hang tab there. But here's the big one. This one was a 65 back B Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raider. And I think all the Hollow Cheeks were on the 65 back B, to my knowledge. Every time I see one that's still mint on card, it's always a 65 back B. I've never seen another card back with it. There might be one out there. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comments as you're hopefully leaving me a like. 75, 85, 85. This one was a beauty and sold for $701.90. And I thought that was a pretty fair deal. It only had light yellowing to the blister. It was very tempting, to be honest with you. Next up was a semi-clear blister 8D8 on the Canadian 65 back C. You can see the French language there on the offer, and then at the top of the card there. The inner tray had yellowed, but the outer blister was still clear for 8D8. Unpunched, no price sticker for $268.03. Another good deal. Here was another 65 back C. This was just the straight U.S. Kenner card. Obviously for Luke Jedi, AFA 80, yellowed blister, 80, 85, 85. That one sold for $475. Pretty good deal there. Probably about market. But the big one is this one. This was ungraded, but it was a clear blister with a yellowed inner tray for Luke on this 65 back C. But this one had the blue lightsaber. Blue lightsaber. So those are always pretty desirable, but it had a clear blister on the outside, yellowed inner tray. It was a punched example with a price sticker, but man, look at that final sales price, $2,300. And it seems like every time I see a mint on card, blue lightsaber Luke Jedi that comes up for sale, graded or ungraded, they always go for big money, always. And this one was no exception. Absolute heater though, with that outer blister that is still clear. Wow, $2,300 on that one. Another Luke, this was a Luke Bespin 77 back A, unpunched, no price sticker. Obviously a big yellowed blister, very yellowed, but $560 on that one. So I feel a lot better about my $625, $650 that I paid for this particular example, AFA 80 that was still clear blister. So I feel a lot better about that money at the time. You know, at the time I felt like I was overpaying for it, but after seeing this sales price in an auction, I feel a little bit better about it, considering mine's clear blister, this one's still yellowed. Some Power of the Force. We've got a Luke Skywalker in Stormtrooper disguise. Obviously, this one had a lot of issues with the card back. That still sold for $723 though, which is probably about right for about a 70 grade, just given the condition issues to the card. It's an expensive figure, you know, even ungraded, it's what, $300-400 minimum. AFA loose graded, it's probably about this price, $723. So to get it still sealed on card for that, you know, again, the card is not perfect, but this is a good one to just put inside a sledding acrylic case and call it a day. But great deal on that at $723. Here was an AFA 75 plus Han Solo in carbonite. You can see there it's got the larger UFO style hang tab. And again, it was a 75 plus with an archival case. That one did sell for $800. Probably about market, just given that higher grade examples, AFA graded examples, will set you back more than that price, closer to $1,000. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. We've got some more KB Toys Overstock 2-packs. We got a Weequay with Han Solo trench coat. That one sold for $186. We had a Bib Fortuna with the Biker Scout. That one sold for $197.50. And then here was an interesting one with the Gamorrean Guard and Wicket. I thought that was kind of a cool dichotomy. We had one of the smallest figures in the Kenner line next to one of the largest figures in the Kenner line, and that one sold for $227.50. That's a pretty cool 2-pack. Next up here is that Tig From. It was an unpunched, no price sticker, AFE 75, clear blister, obviously. These were made in the Lily Letty factory down in Mexico. That one sold for $610. That's right in line with my expectations. I thought it would sell for between $600 and $650. So very good price there for Tig From, unpunched, no price sticker. And then finally, here is that Brazilian glass lead Kes Iban. Beautiful clear blister. It did have a crease, lots of creases on the card back. Probably at best about a 70 grade, maybe a 75 if they're very generous to you, but probably more like a 70 plus, somewhere in that ballpark. But that blister was in great shape. Beautiful example. Look at that blister. That is a really nice example of Kes Iban on a tough to find Brazilian glass leak card back. And that one sold for $401.90, which I thought was a really good deal. It's just any of these glass sleeves are very tough to find. So great buy on that one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at recent sales for vintage mint on card Star Wars action figures. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.